Good morning to my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club, where once again it's another overcast day here in Sydney. But even though it's overcast, Sydney Harbour, the Opera House, Circular Quay are just beautiful. And it's only on days like today that you get to appreciate how beautiful the Opera House is and how it just stands out so beautifully against that clouded background. Just seems to bring out a different aspect of beauty. What I'd like to do today is just continue along my way of adding yet another video to the series, the tribute series that I'm putting together, the 365 video tribute series that I'm putting together for Anthony Robbins. And today's video will be on a topic that is one of Anthony Robbins' pet loves. And as I mentioned yesterday at the seminar at the recent UPW that I attended, I did take a lot of notes. I did take the opportunity to just sit there and write. And I took 167 pages of notes, I think it was. And when I look at my notebook, like I'm looking at it today, let me try and get into focus. Anyway, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to focus on what Anthony Robbins said there about not trying it's not about being perfect. And just to expand on that and to add some flesh to the bone. So Anthony Robbins is very, very big on the concept that we're all work in progress and we're all growing and developing. We're all at different stages, we're at different seasons, we're at different phases of our lives, and that we all need to continue to try and live our life as best we can, knowing that we're all different from each other and we're all different for each other at the same time, and to appreciate the fact that in our lives we're going to come across various things and do various things to help us grow and develop and to add to the palette to enable us to experience the greater spectrum of what life has to offer, and to understand that it's okay to be work in progress. It's okay not to be perfect, and in fact it's probably better not to be perfect or not to think that you're perfect, and to understand that our authenticity and our rawness is probably one of the greatest gifts that we'll ever receive in our lives, and we need to embrace that rawness. We need to accept it, and we need to live it, and we need to leverage it, and we need to try and add to it, because being work in progress or being imperfect isn't a bad thing, especially when we're living in a life, when we're living in a world that's constantly changing. One thing for sure and for certain is that our life will constantly change throughout our life. We will change ever so slightly, but over a lifetime those small changes can add up to, can compound into some significant changes over a lifetime. Anthony Robbins reminds us that people tend to overestimate what they can do in 1 year, but underestimate what can be achieved in a decade. A decade can create and trigger tremendous reward if your efforts are focused, if you're humble, and if you see yourself as being imperfect and accept it and work towards making as many small but productive changes and improvements to your life so that you get to the point where you are a better version of yourself. From a Christian perspective, what I want to do is just add another twist to what Anthony Robbins is saying about it's not about perfection, and it's okay to be work in progress as long as what we're doing is we're progressing, because progress is more important than perfection. Perfection for many people is an illusion. It's a figment of their imagination where they think they're perfect, or where they think that if they tick a certain number of boxes that they can be perfect. But in reality, we need to do a lot of things in our lives to serve God with all our heart, mind and soul, and we need to accept the serviceship, the duty that we've been given to be servants of God, to be co-partners with God in His creation, and to understand that God has made us perfect. We are made in God's image. God the Word came down from heaven and became man. He didn't become a dog. He didn't become an ape. He didn't become a tree. God chose to become man, and Jesus, who is God, is the standard that all of us need to try and emulate where possible, where we continue to grow and develop throughout our lives, to become better versions of ourselves, and to know that only God, only Jesus is sinless. Only Jesus is perfect in every way. But we do have the ability to become one with God and to become God-like by becoming one with God. And we're all called, where possible, to do whatever we can, to do the things that we can, to do the things that are God-pleasing, and to be a partner with God and to serve God. So what makes us imperfect? And it's a tricky sort of question, but I've had time to think about it. And the church calls imperfection sins. The church calls imperfection passions. And what I'd like to try and call these things, just to put the right spin on them, is that these imperfections are in fact distractions. Why are they distractions? The reason why they're distractions is they distract us from serving God. They distract us because instead of serving God, we want to serve ourselves. We become selfish as opposed to selfless. And the purpose that each of us have in life, albeit is a little bit different because we all have different callings. But ultimately, our callings are to become one with God, to serve God, to love God with all our heart, mind and soul, and to do things that are God-pleasing, and to ask ourselves at every decision point, is what I'm doing, is what I'm thinking, is what I'm planning going to be God-pleasing? Because the second part of the equation, after we love God with all our heart, mind and soul and worship Him and serve Him, is that we love our neighbours as we love ourselves. So we do need to love ourselves to the point where our cup overrunneth, and then we can take all of the love that we have given and received from God, all of the love that we have given and received from ourselves, we can take that love and share it with our neighbours, with our enemies, with strangers, with anybody who we touch and come into our lives. So, it's important to live with positive expectancy, and as we said before, to try and be focused and connected for as long as possible and for as much as possible with God, and to be in union with God, to be working with Him on the same path, to be able to achieve the beautiful works that are going to make not only the world a better place, but our life a better place and a better experience as well. By focusing on being one with God and not focusing on our own selfish interests, we can achieve more through giving, and to understand that life isn't just about gaining our own personal interests, but it's about doing what we can to build the wealth in terms of the experiences, the financial freedom, the relationships, the connections, the health that we can use to help others rather than just to help ourselves. Life is a challenge, and as we say, it's a challenge in a good way if you take it that way, if you embrace it and you accept the challenge, if you accept the mission to try and do whatever you can to create a better life for those around you, to be part of a community, to be part of a church group, to do the things that are going to add value to others rather than to waste resources on things that are going to cause fleeting pleasures. Because at the end of the day, as my spiritual father says, and I'm sure Anthony Robbins would attest to, because Anthony Robbins does hold himself out to be a wonderful philanthropist. It's much better to give and to help those in need, to give of your time, to give of your energy, to give of your money, to help people, because by helping others is where the value is and where the fulfillment is in one's life. We're called to grow and develop and to become bigger and better, and that requires us to push ourselves, to step just outside the comfort zone and to lean into that discomfort so that we can expand and be better, and to develop a library, to develop an inventory of patterns, of being able to take problems, to take other people's problems and take our own problems, and to change them and to turn them into wonderful solutions where possible. So all of that comes and as we said, with a bit of challenge. And it's not easy. Anthony Robbins is the first one to say that life's not going to be easy, and we're going to be delivered curveballs all the time. Life has a way, life has a knack of keeping us on our toes. And whilst many of us seek and love the idea of having certainty, we also crave variety and uncertainty. So, certainty isn't the answer, and perfection isn't the answer unless we're perfect in God and we accept God's will regardless of what it is, because it's impossible to understand and to know what God's will is, because the difference between God and man is that God, Jesus, is all-knowing, is omnipresent. He knows everything. And sometimes we just need to be able to submit to God's will and to allow life to take its path. But at the same time, we need to be a participant in our life. We need to be present and a participant in our salvation as well, rather than just to drift along, because drifting along has its risks. Being distracted has its risks. Being separated from God and indulging in your own desires has its risks, because there are first, second and third level consequences that come with it. My spiritual father reminds me that it's more important to spend your life trying to help others. And if you can save just one soul, of course, if you can save your soul, that is critical. But if you can save just one soul, my spiritual father says, then that gift or that action or that work of love will have eternal value, because by saving one person's soul, it is eternal. It has eternal value, and it's far more important to be able to save one person's soul than to save every single person living on the earth at this point in time. Say, for example, there are 7 billion people living on the earth, and you had the power to be able to give all of those people an additional 10 years of life through better health or better food. That in itself would be a wonderful gift to mankind. But if you took the 7 million people and added 10 years to their lives, that would deliver, a tenfold increase in years. But if you're not able to help people save their souls, then all of that you've done has amounted to nothing in the expanse of eternity. Because as I said before, helping one person save their soul has much more value than saving every person's life who is living on the planet today, if by saving their lives you're not leading them or you're not helping them find God. It's a powerful concept, but we need to understand that this whole concept of perfection and imperfection is important, and people become perfect through their imperfection, people become perfect when they realize that they are not perfect, that they can never be perfect, but they can progress to perfection, and the only perfection that exists is the ultimate perfection of being one with God. And for that reason we go to church, for that reason we get baptized, for that reason we partake in Holy Communion, so that we can be one with God and God to be one with us. Because at the end of the day, if you don't want to be one with God in your lifetime, then when your lifetime ends, when your physical lifetime ends, then chances are that you won't want to be one with God in your eternal life. And for that reason, it is critical. For that reason, it's important to get things into perspective and to understand that it's not about perfection in terms of having the greatest life, having the best car, the best house, the trophy wife, the best children. It's about being one with God and being on the path to heaven with your partner, so that you help each other reach the ultimate goal, that you work with God, you work with Jesus, you work with children to save each other's soul and to gain perfection through the church and through the sacraments, rather than trying to find perfection in the material world. Of course, it's important to have money, to pay your mortgage, to pay your bills, to have a safe car so you can get from point A to point B, to live in a comfortable house, to maintain the health of your children, the physical and mental health and spiritual and emotional health. But by the same token, this mustn't be the ultimate goal of just having those things. We need to have those things in order to gain the bigger picture, to gain the ultimate picture. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me on this episode of All That I've Learned from Anthony Robbins, where we've examined perfection, we've examined the concept of, being work in progress. We've examined the importance of being humble and being meek to a certain extent, by understanding that we have a lot of work to do, and our purpose in life is not just to serve our own personal interests, but to work with God and to be part of a bigger calling, a bigger opportunity to add not only to our lives, but to the lives of others around us. Take care, everybody. Yassas, wishing you all the best. And I need to cut this one short today because I'm heading off to work. So wishing you all the best. Let's live, learn, and pass it on wherever we can. Yassas, and bye for now.